All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It is 7:15. Flag salute first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Okay, great. Miss Bollenbacher is
I'm here.
online. Yep, okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Miss Compatello?
Here.
Mr. Marks?
Here.
Mr. Oliverio?
Here.
Miss Prokalnick?
Here.
Mr. Radilla?
Here.
And Mayor Perry is absent tonight. Solicitor Corbel?
Here.
Engineer Minsterman?
Here.
And myself. Thank you.
Okay. Consent agenda. So we have the council meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was July 27th. The bill list for this meeting and to ratify the August 10th bill list, and also all the July reports which are listed there. One item I wanted to say is from the August 10th bill list to remove the gateway bills from there, because we're still waiting for more information on gateway, detailed items from their invoices. So with that, I would want to make a motion to approve the August 24th consent agenda with the removal of the gateway bills.
So moved.
Mr. Marks?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Public comments on agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So in person. Oh, yeah, so you're on the agenda. Okay, so we don't, okay, yeah, unless you want to talk twice, but yeah, that's.
I don't know, so we have at least one attendee on Zoom. If they'd like to
People like
speak, they could raise their hand.
All right. President's report. We have a lot on the agenda today. Nothing to report. Mayor's report. Mayor isn't here. Solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a public report, but wanted to mention that council held an executive session prior to the meeting to receive legal advice, discuss pending litigation, and receive information from the manager.
Engineer's report.
There's a few items on the agenda tonight that I'll discuss. Otherwise, everything stands in the engineer's report to council. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great. Library report. Andrea and Tiffany. Hi. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Marquis here, one of the Borough Council appointees to the Library Board of Trustees, and giving you a report of things that have happened since the last time I visited you here. We had our last library meeting August 8th. And prior to that had held elections. So our 2024 board status is decided. Our president will be Sharon Wilson. I will be the vice president. The secretary will be Daniel McKay. Treasurer will be Anna Mihalega. And Tiffany Hickman is the other council appointee. And Carrie Woodard is another trustee at large. My appointment by the borough, I think, is up at the end of this year. So I will be continuing on the library board. If you guys want me to still be the appointee, I'm willing. Or if you want to find another borough resident, that's fine. We will have a vacant seat as of January 2024. But please let us know soon if we need to recruit or if you guys are going to go through that process. And I understand we do have a few interested parties, but I'm not sure if they are borough residents or not. The summer reading program finished. We had 66 total participants and the total books read was 1,654. Prizes were donated by local businesses. The library hired a new cleaning company, which was necessary. There are bike locks and bike racks now available at the library. September is Love Your Library Month, so everyone be on the lookout for a letter from the director and board. And we received a $25,000 donation from a company on behalf of a Crafton resident and friend of the library who retired from that company. So it was part of, I guess, the retirement package. So that was pretty great. And I think we had communicated with Jim about the still needed drywall repair from ceiling and furnace leaks. I think that's in the works since then, yes?
Yes, they installed UV lights in that room so that anything that's going in there is not causing any issues. However, the plan is to repair the drywall sometime this fall.
Okay, awesome. That's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? Okay,
Just
thanks.
a comment for the library, the seed library was
Oh, yeah.
well enjoyed.
Oh, good,
So
yeah.
that was a great addition. And if anyone didn't know we have one of those yet, we do.
Yeah, we'll
It's great.
continue that. And I forgot to put on in my notes that we're trying to plan a seed saving workshop. So people who grew things can learn how to save different kinds of seeds and then donate them back to the seed library. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, managers report.
Great, thank you. And with this, I'm going to lead off by introducing you to our intern that we had this year. His name's Shabam, and he will be doing a presentation about his work.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I'll take a few minutes.
Yeah. Shubham, you have to be on the mic or nobody can hear you. Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it now. There's people online that won't be able to hear you unless you're mic'd.
Makes
So-
sense. Yeah. So I'm Shubham and I'm a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon and I study public policy and data science. Thank you, Crafton Borough and Local Government Academy for this wonderful opportunity that I had to work this summer for more than 3 months, working on the streets of Crafton, collecting information, and I assume like it'll be put on great use for the decisions that the borough will take. All right. So these are the 4 projects that I worked during my summer here. So one was the asset management in GIS. The technology that we used was ArcGIS with the help of gateway engineers. Second was the analysis of the speed data that we took out from the speed radars or the speed monitors. Third, we proposed the electric vehicle charging stations at Crafton. That would be established through the grant that the Crafton Borough has already won. And the fourth, I helped Doug in creating a public works manual that would be kind of a vision and a mission document for the public works team here at Crafton. So we'll go one by one here. So the idea was to turning the chaos into cartography, right? So we had so much of data, so much of assets on the street, so we needed to kind of capture that into a kind of a one repository. So which could help officers and the borough and the elected officials to take a call how they want to go in future. So these were the larger categories in which the assets were kind of recorded: military banners, traffic lights, street trees and the sidewalks, garbage cans, crosswalks, and street signs, which were largely into 4 categories: regulatory, street names, parking, and the warning. The military banners, of course, the most important one. It's a kind of a respect to our veterans who have served us, and due to their efforts, we're standing here safe and sound in front of you all. So it's good to know that like more than half, almost half of the military banners are in the great condition. And if we take into consideration fair, so it's like more than 3/4 of are in the great condition, and 20% could be somewhat we can consider that can be replaced. Yeah. Now the street trees and the sidewalks. We have a total of 368 the street trees in Crafton. We can do another bunch load of analysis out of this data, like what kind of trees do we have, right? And if we have poor trees, what kind of poor trees do we have? Do we need to recommend different kind of species, which would be feasible for the geography and the topography of this neighborhood? So, and depending on that, like what is the condition of sidewalks, how friendly how friendly it is for our pedestrians to walk on the sidewalks. So we know that like we have a good share of 80% of our sidewalks in good condition. So if we take into consideration the fair sidewalks also, that the number rises up to 89%, 88%. And we just need to take care of 12.5% bad sidewalks. So these are the automated signals, which consist of traffic lights, which are 99 in numbers. It also consists of the pedestrian signs that we have on the traffic poles, right? The push buttons that we have to assist the pedestrians to cross the crosswalks, and the signal boxes, which serve as a kind of a main the control boxes for these lights. And good to know that they're all in good condition. I would say excellent condition. And then we have garbage cans spread across Crafton, majorly into our parks and across the streets. And most of them are in great condition. A few, 3 of them in poor condition, which means they are like minor, like parts are broken or they're kind of rusted. So which can also be taken care by the borough. Now the crosswalks. So we have like 102 total crosswalks. Largely a good part of it is like it's in a good shape, and the poor ones need a kind of fresh coat of a paint, or could be like another, like there's some cracks also on the street that has caused the destruction of the crosswalks. Now the street signs. So we have like 3 categories. Parking consists of all the signs which cater to the parking signs, and the regulatory consists of the stop, yield, speed limit, and the street names, and the Crafton Borough signs that we have across Crafton, that just to notify people that, okay, you're welcome in Crafton, here you are in Crafton. And the warning signs are, of course, the warning signs, like which gives you a kind of a hint that, okay, so this is one way, or the U-turns are prohibited, or this, like, watch for the children's playing here. I will go back on this back. Yeah. So just to give you a overview of this, we have like almost 3/4 of our data, which if we consider fair into a good category, 3/4 of our data, like it's into an excellent condition. So this was before this project started, and this is now what we're standing here at. So we're just too short of 2,700. Yeah. So I would request Doug and Jim, if you can give me 2 more signs, I can I can reach to that beautiful number of 2,700.
We have Public Works putting in 2 stop signs right now for you.
Tomorrow is my last day. Yeah. So these are the expected gains that we can have from this data that we have in ArcGIS. Of course, like we have a comprehensive data integration. We have a like kind of a repository of data. Now we don't have to look into multiple data sources where we have different stuff. So it's kind of a repository that we have, like, and it can serve as a legacy data for further processes also. And now it will be more kind of a data-driven approach for the decision making, and of course it will be cost saving and help us in spatial analysis and have increase our scalability of the operations. Most importantly for me, it is like it reduces the risk for our residents, because the Crafton Borough would be knowing what are the poor assets that we have and what we need to replace. right? Our pedestrians, residents would be into much safer territory now because on the replacement and the repair would be on a much proactive basis. And they would also have a great resource allocation and optimized utilization of resources. And of course, real-time monitoring as well. So in the evening, I was having a word with Mary from the Tree Shade Commission, and like we kind of had a conflict of like she was not sure, like if I was not sure like if the condition of a tree was a good tree or a bad tree. So we went there in the application itself, and I clicked on that spot itself, and we had the real-time images for the tree and the sidewalks. And there the conflict was resolved. Okay, it was a bad tree.
Mhm.
So now, like, yeah, it's the second project was the speed data analysis. So the idea behind was to unveiling the safer roads for Crafton residents. So we used to collect. You must have seen this kind of radars or the speed monitors installed a couple of places in Crafton. So we used to periodically extract data from these radars, and then used to churn out a report using a Excel macros-based Excel tool, which used to massage the numbers into this particular form, and where we used to get the data on a day-to-day basis, like on a particular day, how many vehicles have passed that particular radar, right? Both ways, the vehicles approaching the radar or vehicles moving away from the radar, right? And on the basis of like two parameters, one was the peak speed and another was the average speed. Of course, it's a normal human tendency. Like if I see a speed radar in front of me, right, and it shows like the speed limit is 25 and I'm speeding at 50, of course I'm sure to slow it down a little bit, right? So the radar is quite intelligent, so it'll capture the both speeds. It'll capture my top speed also, my peak speed also. So people who are speeding, people who are defaulters or kind of speeders, on the basis of their peak speed have been denoted in the red, and then they kind of slow down. Then they calculate the average speed of that particular vehicle. Then how many people have been violators of the speed limit, that has been given in the green color. So we also get a daily average speeds for that particular street. If it is well below the speed limit, so things are kind of more feasible for us, right? So it's not a thing to worry. But it's largely seen when you put a speed radar sign. So the average also falls, like from 33 when initially it was there, right, the first day, and then it kind of goes really well. So it has an impact on the mind of the drivers. Yeah.
And those were done on Union, right?
Oh, so like we had like 3 locations across these 3 months. One was initially it was at the Crafton Boulevard. Second, it was at Union Avenue. This example was from Union Avenue,
Right.
and now currently it is at the Maplewood Street.
And just to add, those are all places that we've recently received complaints. So that's why we've been moving it to those streets, because of responsive to customer concerns.
And the third one, we did a kind of a feasibility study. So where the EV charging station should be. So we proposed few locations depending how we can help our residents like adopt the new technology, the new mobility technology. I'm more excited and more kind of attached to this particular project because I also serve as a board member of the Transportation Club at CMU and as a research assistant on the Traffic 21. So I wish Crafton has many more stations in the future, and I would get my club members here to to get a view of how things are working here. Yeah, so we proposed 4 charging stations, 2 in the parking lot that we have here, 1 in the Stotts Business District, like near Surfinos, and 1 in the swimming pool parking station, because that's where like we have. Oh, so the rationale that we applied to identify those locations were like, first, the location, the place should be owned by the borough, right? Second, there should be a high density or like people should go there on frequent visits. Third, we also wanted to increase the economic activity of the place because we're investing so much. And initially the idea is like, we're not even charging them for the electricity. So it should be a kind of a barter, right? So we should get something out of it. Now comes the Public Works Manual. So it's like, it's kind of a vision and mission document for the team. So it's right now, currently, it's a 18-page manual, which can be increased or decreased depending on what sections do we want to keep and what section do you want to include in that particular manual. So I've just added the contents of the manual. So it talks about the introduction, like the history of public works around the world, how it started, and what has been the shape of public works in Crafton Borough. It also tells about the vision and mission, and the key principles and objectives, and key services and tasks undertaken, which are road construction and maintenance, and what are the tasks under that particular set of services, sidewalk and pathways, bridges and structures, sewers and drainage system, recreational, public parks and recreational facilities, street lighting and traffic signals, solid waste management, and public building maintenance. That's it from my side. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doug and Jim, for this wonderful opportunity. And I also thank each one of you here. Thank you.
Could you stay for questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Make a statement. I really appreciate that you did all this. This is really well done and also really well presented. I also had the opportunity to tour the EV charging stations that West Mifflin put in this morning. Well, I had the opportunity to tour them this morning. They didn't put them in this morning, but they look great and are well in use, and they are already paying themselves off within less than a year of installation, and they're starting to see a return on their investment. So I was really happy to hear that from West Mifflin, and was hoping to share that with council. And I am really thrilled to see that this is an effort that was put in already. We're kind of ahead in moving that forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Did we look at street signs?
Yep.
Were they on there?
Yeah.
No, I meant like the actual street name signs.
Yep.
I didn't think I saw them. I saw the warning signs. I saw some of the
No,
other
they were.
ones.
So they were part of regulatory signs
Okay.
with stop, yield, speed limit, and street names.
Okay, they were part of the warning.
Yeah.
Go back
One more slide. Yeah.
Oh, regulate. Wait,
Street names.
street names. Okay.
And I can tell you, thank you, Shubham. It's been fantastic. And for all of this, I'm already planning to use this information to set up the budget for next year so we can start picking off all these ones that are poor on all these sheets. And now that we have it very clearly, we know exactly what we need to do. It makes it much easier to write the budget to move forward. So it's great. And also on the speed issue, because of a call from a resident on speeding issues on Crafton Boulevard, we put that sign there. You guys analyzed it. We actually took that to PennDOT, wrote a letter to PennDOT, and PennDOT is doing a safety study on Crafton Boulevard as well.
Yeah.
So all because of your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Real quick on the speeding thing, Union Avenue, after this data, I'm glad to see this data. I live on Union, so this was, I was a big proponent of getting one of those signs, and it has 100% helped. I would say that people are speeding less now that the street has been paved, which is shocking to me. But truthfully, I think it's because that sign was there, and I think that did help. So thank you for this data, because that does help to understand that people really weren't going that fast. It just seems faster on a 25-mile-an-hour one-way street.
So it looks like the sign, like having the radar sign there was what actually cause drivers to start slowing down? Is the expectation that it slowly creeps back up now that it's moved?
We don't know yet, but the nice thing is that we can analyze that over time. We can and have placed that sign with the digital sign turned off, but it still records
Yeah, I've
people's
seen
speeds.
it. I saw it on Crafton Boulevard. when you
Yeah,
did
and we
that.
did that intentionally so that so that people don't see their speed. And, because we had the opposite effect on Crafton Boulevard, when people saw their speed, a number of people sped up. So, it was, the challenge of how fast you can get the number to show. So, yeah. So both things happen and, and we'll know with more data.
Does it go to
What
100?
are those radar signs run a piece?
Doug might have the answer to that. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Couple thousand. Yeah.
And we only have one of them for now? Oh, we have two of them. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This was great work. And I think if we could, as part of the manager's report or the future, just following up on the areas that were poor. And if this is able to be shared, that would be great. At the very least with council, if not with the public, because this is just data that's out there. Because there's action items here for the Shade Tree Commission, obviously for Public Works and some other groups too.
Yep, absolutely. We hope to use it. There's a lot of information there and we need to be updating it too as we move on. I have a couple of more business oriented things. The first is the Allegheny County Community Development Block Grant Program and Home Investment Partnerships Program, which is a national HUD program that the county runs. The Community Development Block Program includes funding for public improvements like water and sewer, demolition, recreation, and general infrastructure. And the Home Investment Partnership Program is a federal funding source managed by the county to assist in the construction or repair of affordable housing. To be eligible to participate in either of these programs, we need to pass a resolution opting into those programs. So I'd like to ask for a motion to approve resolution 2023-18 opting into Allegheny County's Community Development Block Grant Program and home programs for 2024, 25, and 26.
So moved.
Mr. Rodella, Ms. Comptello, discussion.
Is there anything in mind yet that you're thinking of using those for?
Well, we regularly have used them for demolition, but I don't have anything in mind for other ones other than what we've used it for in the past.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to update everybody with, my manager's report is on the drive, but I also wanted to update everybody specifically with the budget schedule. We are just digging into that. The finance committee at the last meeting started to develop that, and I've further developed that schedule. So I just want to lay that out for everybody. August 25th, tomorrow, I'll be sending the budget worksheets to the department heads over the next week or two. I will be discussing, so by September 8th the budget worksheets will be returned from department heads. And then I will work on, by September 8th, a draft budget created in partnership with those department heads and the conversations that we have. And then I'll be hoping to get an updated budget worksheet from our consultant BBC, combining some of that information into a new budget worksheet. And then on September 19th, the finance committee will review the first draft of that budget. And with the hopes of sending it to council on the 19th. I'm sorry, on the 28th. That will be the first time that council is introduced to that draft budget in a workshop prior to that meeting. So the meeting will be at 6:30. And then we have budget workshops scheduled then for the next four meetings. But we hope to not need all of them, is the goal. Apparently we didn't last year, and I'd like to hope that we can get to that point as well. So then each one of the other budget workshops are on the same days as regular meetings. So we'll just be meeting 45 minutes earlier at 6:30 for those meetings. But that is the schedule for the budget process, and I will be sending everybody a copy of that. So all the council people will have a copy of that schedule, so you know how it's going. With that being said, then I will move on to the next item unless anybody has any questions about the budget. No, okay. Resolution 2023-19 is a resolution declaring the borough's intent to enter into a financial agreement with Huntington Public Capital Corporation to finance a 2023 Ford F-550 chassis cab and dump truck, a dump body with a snowplow dump truck in the amount of $112,852. And this was in our budget this year for $35,000 and will be in the next two budgets as well to pay that lease. So with that, can I get a motion to approve resolution 2023-19 declaring the borough's intent to enter a financial agreement with Huntington Public Capital Corporation in the amount of $112,852?
So moved.
Mr. Marks,
Second.
Ms. Kulkalnick, discussion.
I didn't see a draft of this resolution on Drive. Was that intentional?
No, I did. I thought I had one on there and I did not have it on there. So I do have a copy of it here and I can show it to you. That was just a mistake on my behalf.
Is the intent to use this primarily for snow plowing, or will it be used at other times of the year? What is the general
This
usage?
is replacing one that we already have. And yes, it will be used for snow plowing, but it's going to be used for, we use dump trucks for all kinds of stuff. We use it for plowing, for paving, for trash pickup days. They use it sometimes when we have to collect recycling. We use those dump trucks for quite a few things. Yeah.
And just plan to sell the current one.
Yes, confirm that with Doug, but yes, we are planning to sell. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, and then the last issue on my agenda is a zoning hearing board case regarding, and I do have the address wrong. It is actually 1960 Crafton Boulevard. My apologies. And regarding 1960 Crafton Boulevard, the property owner sought a variance from the zoning hearing board regarding their hedges and vision requirements in the borough code. The zoning hearing board asked the property owner to work with the borough and to find an equitable solution before the zoning hearing board meets again at the end of September. Three options were explored with the property owner, and those are a traffic mirror, changing Johnston to a one-way street, and or cutting down or moving the hedges. The first option, the mirrors, we conferred with our engineer, and it was determined that that is not legal to do in the state of Pennsylvania anymore. And so we are not recommending that option. The third option, alter the hedges, is not preferred by the property owner. So that left the second option, changing Johnston to a one-way street. And with that, I would like to make a motion. Thank you. There is the property. I would like to make a motion to approve the borough administration to work with the property owner in determining the feasibility of making Johnston a one-way street. The property owner will be responsible for obtaining a traffic study to support the change and must obtain signatures from at least 70% of the property owners on Harrison and Johnston streets. All costs will be borne by the property owner. If those requirements are met, the borough will seek to pass an ordinance changing the traffic pattern to one way on Johnston Street.
Any motion?
So moved.
Mr. Marks? Second?
Can we discuss first? Or do we have to?
Right, because it would be the second. The motion would have to be removed, and then you can discuss, right?
There was a couple things I wanted to ask.
Sure, I'll withdraw the motion.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Nobody can hear you.
I always forget. Were we going to add Morton to the three streets with the signatures, or another street?
Yeah, I was gonna wait till, I was gonna see what came out of the
Okay.
discussion, but yes,
Okay.
if that is, yep.
And And then I also think in the motion, we should have Gateway review the traffic study to make sure that they agree.
Yeah, I mean, technically we can make and second the motion and we still have to vote to approve or shoot it down and then make revisions afterwards. So,
But there is no motion that has to be, if nobody makes a motion. then-
There was a request for discussion though, so can we have discussion?
Yeah, so there's no motion. So basically you withdrew your motion.
Yeah, so we're basically amending the motion to include a provision that would permit Gateway to review and approve the traffic study. And then I know Mr. Price indicated that Morton should be included, so I would say that should be included at this point. And then if council members have other ideas, that can be part of your discussion. And so that would be the motion. So someone can make a motion in a second, and then we can continue discussion.
Okay, so with those changes, which is adding Morton onto Harrison and Johnson, and also for Gateway to review and approve the traffic study that's put together by this resident through their expenses. Does anybody make a motion for that?
And we also add North Emily, or do we have to wait until after?
Yeah, whoever makes the motion can add that into the motion. Mhm.
is it the whole of North Emily? Is it just because I mean, North Emily is one way, so it would just be the affected side of North Emily.
I would say the affected blocks.
And then are we leaving the affected folks on Crafton Boulevard out of the picture too? Or are we saying that that's not going to be affected by a traffic change as well?
It's whatever you want to make on the motion, then we can have discussion regarding the motion, or no motion at all.
So just to clarify, you made a motion and added the affected blocks at North Emily. Okay, great. All right.
Okay, so right now we have one motion, which is Harrison, Johnson, Morton, North Emily, with Gateway to review and approve a traffic study.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Chandler. Okay, now we can have discussion.
So I have a question about the 70% of the property owners on Harrison, Johnston, and all of the other streets that we've mentioned. I really have two concerns about this. First, that 70% seems relatively low for a change that is going to potentially quite substantially impact quite a lot of people. And some of that impact may not be seen by them until afterwards. And so this is a decision that some could make fairly lightly and not realize until after they no longer have recourse that it impacts them. So I would like to consider making that number higher. The other part that concerns me is the property owners. We have quite a number of renters in this community, and the focus on property owners only removes all voice from anyone who is living in those areas, who's going to be impacted, who is renting.
We could change that to 70% of the residents on Harrison. And
Would we have a way to verify whether that was met? We would have to, be able to know that we know who all the residents are in each of those addresses that are impacted.
Not simply, but we would, yes, not easily, but we could figure out based on, I mean, we do have the data for every house, but when it would be more difficult with the renters. Yes.
What percent were you looking at or thinking about? 80 or higher?
I mean, this is a fairly sizable change. 90%. I mean, everyone who lives in that area is going to be impacted. So I don't know what is common or standard, but I don't know how commonly this happens in other locations, but I do know that making a change like that is difficult to undo afterwards. So I would rather be very deliberate about it. And this request is coming from one resident. I would like to be very thorough in making sure that it's something that everyone impacted understands how it will impact them and has a say in the matter.
I agree. I think it should be at least 80%. Because we now have, it would be 2 streets, then 3 streets that are all one way onto North Emily, which is also a one way. As opposed to 2 streets. Yeah, I would say at least 80%.
Does that also impact the parking patterns on that street and what side of the street you can park on and how much parking would be available if it goes to, would that have any impact?
That is a good question. I don't think it would negatively impact it. It's already been, Johnston Street has already been changed to we're only allowing parking on one side of the street because of the width of the street was too much for it to be. And frankly, it's just slightly too narrow for typical guidelines for it to be a two-way street with parking on one side, but only slightly too narrow. So it depends on, that's council's decision, whether they added parking back in on the other side of the street or not.
And then remind me, if we do nothing, but when's the zoning hearing board meeting? End of September?
It's on. Yeah.
September 27th, I think.
Okay. And if nothing, if this body does nothing with this, then you can't do anything with this, and the zoning hearing board has to make a decision on the 27th.
Yes. Yeah.
Which could,
Yes, unless the property owner grants an extension of time.
yeah, and at which point the zoning hearing board would decide whether or not they get a variance and don't have to trim hedges to code. Is that right?
That's correct. Or they could be told that they have to follow code. It's up to the zoning hearing board at that point. Right now, it's in all, they gave us the opportunity to find a solution. But otherwise it goes back to the zoning hearing board.
And no matter what the zoning hearing board decides, both parties do have a right of appeal to the Court of Common Pleas.
And at that point, an appeal though would involve the zoning hearing board, or would that involve the borough?
Well, if council is unhappy, the borough can appeal.
Okay.
If the property owners are unhappy and file an appeal, the zoning hearing board would be would defend, but again, the borough would also have the right to intervene in that matter and also file a legal brief, perhaps in lieu of the zoning hearing board or join the zoning hearing board, but it puts you at the table.
And another option is just to follow our ordinances and say that the hedges need to be cut is an option. So we can say to the resident, you have to cut the hedges. And that's an option that this council can decide.
That was the position that the borough took at the hearing, supporting our ordinance.
So I do agree that the easiest solution is for the property owners to trim the hedges. But in lieu of that, I do think bumping the percentage to 80% of signatures of residents and adding those 2 streets, if that whole area is okay with these changes to keep the hedges, then I would say let's put it back into their hands.
Any more discussion?
Do we have any records of how often we've had issues with the intersection at North Emily, which is the next intersection up from this? But I bring this up because I live a block down from that, and I've seen the large trucks sometimes will come up through Steuben and through the center of town, and then the GPS will direct them down North Emily, which they're not allowed to drive on, but they do it anyways. And it is a route that's recommended by GPS. And this has happened more than once, that a truck will try to come down North Emily, make that turn and get stuck, which will stop traffic from getting through for a period of time until our police are able to help the truck maneuver their way out of the situation they got themselves into. Now, when that happens, there is no traffic that can come in or out of North Emily because that is a one-way street. And the maneuvering of the truck will usually block a portion of Crafton Boulevard during that time as well, which means that the more streets that we make one way would and the direction that we'd be talking about making Johnston one way, traffic would have to be directed out. And there would not be another outlet in the event that this happens. Now, I know this is a little bit of an unusual scenario, but it is not a unique, unusual scenario. It
But-
does happen with some regularity.
But if Morton's one way like this, that doesn't really fix anything. And hopefully the police would be able to help somebody get around our normal traffic patterns in an emergency, like a stuck truck or something. But changing the direction of Johnson from one way to two way, or from two way to one way, doesn't actually affect like traffic down Morton. It would put more traffic down Morton potentially, but it looks like if the majority of folks on Johnston are parking on the right-hand side, they're probably driving towards Morton anyways. If people can't come into that little block from Morton, we're really only messing with traffic on Harrison, right?
Well, I'm saying for the events that North Emily is blocked and you can't get out, there's no other outlet if you
If you're
close off
coming
the
down-
exit from Johnston as well.
Yeah, I
There's
see
no
what
other
you're saying. If
outlet.
you're coming down Crafton Boulevard and can't continue down Crafton Boulevard, you have to go down Johnson, or you could go down Harrison, Morton,
Okay.
up Johnson and back the other way to turn around or go a different way. But if you turn Johnson only going the opposite direction towards Morton, you won't be able to use that as an outlet if you come down Harrison, up Morton and up Johnson to turn back around.
It's an illustrative example, but it does happen. And goes to the bigger issue here that we have quite a number of one-way streets and streets that are not through. So we have limited streets that have through connectivity, and turning more into one-way streets reduces the amount of connectivity that we have. We have quite a number of streets with the hills and the topography and some of the creeks that we have, that there are very few routes where you can actually go through. We have a lot of, limited one-way and dead-end areas.
And it forces all of Harrison, so Harrison up to North Emily, all of Johnson up to North Emily, all of Morton up to North Emily. So all that traffic now has to go to North Emily, or they can't get out of their locations. So we have two one-way streets going parallel, and then another one-way street going parallel too. So there's three one-way streets with people unable to leave that because the resident will not cut their hedges. So this is a decision for the future. So we have to realize that residents in the future that may live on these streets will be affected by this. And the resident that won't cut their hedges may not be there forever. So we are making a decision for the future and future traffic that's on that street. Johnson was also just paved as part of the paving project. So lots of residents there. They also went through the sewer project and still going through it, which is a major sewer connection issue along that whole street. So, and quite a few houses have been up for sale on that street. So there's been a lot of disruption for Johnson Street. And in my opinion, I think those residents have gone through a lot, and asking them now we're going to make their street one way is not the best choice at this time, in my opinion.
I agree. And I also think too, that's part of the 80%. I mean, I don't want to say they're making the decision, but they're essentially making the decision. At least 80% of these streets are making this decision, essentially, by having to meet these requirements to make this even possibly happen.
And there's also a time issue. What happens, how do you get 80%, or how do you even talk to all of those residents? If they have to be at home, they have to answer their door. This could go on for months, and we have a safety issue right now where as you come off of Johnson, you cannot see cars coming. So I would hate for somebody to have an accident because somebody didn't cut their hedges. And we're waiting for somebody to get resident issues for a resident that did not follow an ordinance we have right now.
The kicker here is that, again, if we do nothing or we hold to our ordinance, the zoning hearing board could still decide to allow a variance, and then that safety issue still
Not if they've kicked it to us, so if we decide that we follow our ordinance, then that's the decision.
No,
They can. Yeah.
The zoning hearing board still has the jurisdiction to make the ultimate decision. They only ask that the council or the borough and the applicant here try to work it out. I think so they didn't have to make a decision. But if you're not willing to, if you don't want to do this, you can say no. And then the ball is in the zoning hearing board's court. We'll be at the meeting. My office will be at the meeting at the end of September. We'll make our closing arguments. I don't remember if the record was closed. I think it was. And then they'll make a decision there and that's what it is. And then you'll have to decide if you want to appeal, if it wasn't the decision you wanted. And if the other party doesn't like the decision, they can file an appeal as well. So on the timing, yes, I mean, if there is an appeal in this matter, which they will have 30 days to appeal. So that takes you to the end of October. Then it goes to the court and you may not have a decision for 6 months or more. So that puts you into the spring.
If we were to do a route that allows for a traffic study and signatures, would we be able to set a time period during which the signatures need to be obtained?
Yes.
And I'm assuming that the signatures would be obtained after the traffic study was completed so that residents could give a signature having had the opportunity to view the traffic study and understand what they're agreeing to.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense. I also think that the borough should produce the permission slip that would be provided to the residents. This isn't a petition or something, right? This is, yeah, there should probably be a narrative and an area for the resident to sign, print their name, put their address, their phone number, email, or anything in case we need to get in touch with them. And you know, the resident that wants to not cut the hedges down can take our permission slip around and see if they can get to 80% in the time frame that we choose.
How long would we need to allow for the traffic study to be done before we could even get to the signature phase?
Rick, how long would a traffic study typically take to produce for something like that?
I would say 2 to 4 weeks.
And in the meantime, since the hedges are breaking the ordinances, are they getting fined or?
No fines. If the zoning hearing board made a determination in the borough's favor that the ordinance should be enforced, then the individual doesn't appeal to common pleas court, and then also doesn't actually cut the hedges, then we could issue citations under the zoning ordinance for fines.
when was the zoning hearing board that we're referencing, the previous one where this case was made? What day was that on?
Do you know the date? Yeah, that sounds right. It was August 2nd. Yeah, it was a Wednesday, I think.
Okay, so we have a zoning hearing board meeting that happened 22 days ago. And yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, this is the first that's made it onto our agenda because we didn't meet earlier this month. That's right. We canceled our earlier meeting this month.
Correct.
And we need to have a decision to co-op or whatever we're going to do here by probably next meeting at least, or at latest, because we couldn't wait until the last meeting. That probably wouldn't give enough time. It all feels very rushed to me. And I feel like making it to our agenda for the first time tonight, I don't feel comfortable voting on this at all because I've not heard anything from anybody. We haven't even given anybody a chance other than finally advertising tonight that we have on, that we're talking about this. So I would feel more comfortable tabling this until next meeting to at least give folks from Johnston, Harrison, Morton, Emily, and Crafton Boulevard to come down here and make their case if they feel they want to.
Well, by collecting signatures, we're giving them a chance to hear their voice. And I want to move on this quickly because this is already a safety hazard and God forbid something happens.
I'd like to ask about that. So what is, there are two reasons stated here for the variance regarding the hedges and the vision requirements. They go together, but that's two components. They have hedges that are too high. So there's certainly an aspect there of just height, not wanting to cut them. But then there's also a vision requirement that is being violated. So what is the vision requirement that's being violated? Is it cutting off? How much is it being violated? Do we have some more information about that?
I don't have a diagram or anything with the specific parameters, but it's essentially a triangle a vision triangle that is laid out in the zoning ordinance that is based on it's basically 30-foot sides to the triangle. And you have you basically run one line down the side by the hedges. You run another line down the street where you would be turning onto, or in this case, away from, and then you draw the line back across those two lines through the hedges, and it needs to be moved back considerably.
So it's a significant.
It's a
I mean,
significant chunk.
I guess my question is it like a minor intrusion over the allowable cone, or is it a significant?
It's a good number of feet. It's significant.
So if you
Is
go
there-
there, you can't see the
Yeah.
cars coming from the right. If you're going to turn left on Crafton Boulevard, you can't see them at all. So you take a chance and you hurry.
Was there a reason given why those hedges can't be trimmed back?
Ben, you probably heard more of them than anybody he's on the zoning hearing board.
Ben, do you want to speak on behalf of the zoning board? So Ben is on the zoning hearing board. There's only 3 members. So Ben is,
Is this?
he said it's okay. Yeah.
Do not offer your opinion or make a decision. You should just answer the questions as to what occurred at the meeting. So factual responses.
Okay, first, they presented a petition from what appeared to be from several of their neighbors. I don't know the authentic, or can't say whether if it was just their friends or whatever. I don't know how many people, what percentage of the residents were on there, but it was a couple, and they were very concerned with the privacy in their yard. The way that property is laid out, they don't really have a backyard, so they don't have a spot on their lawn to relax without having people being able to look in if they have to cut it down to the side of the other one. We wanted to give them an opportunity to come up with something to resolve this without, we were hoping that there could be a resolution without a decision that night. So we were hoping that one of the 3 options could be done, but it might, if it's not possible, we'll have to make a decision.
So, and this is not necessarily a question for you, I understand you can't answer, but if the reason given, if the reason I'm hearing was privacy, then is a fence or a taller hedge that's built a little further in outside of the cone of restrictive vision still an option that the
Yes, and I
homeowner could
did.
explore?
Yes, and I discussed that with him as another option. When the third option was either cutting or moving the hedges, and I discussed that with him at length, and I pushed for that option because I think that option frankly makes the most sense. But
Privacy seems valuable, but safety on public streets seems to, in my opinion, seems to trump that.
So what was his answer for moving the hedges back?
That he didn't want to do it.
Oh, okay.
But I mean,
And-
trimming
and-
the hedge, but then building a fence a little further in would also be an option.
Yes.
For the privacy.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Right now, we have a motion on the table. It's been second. This is for everything that's on here except adding Morton and North Emily residents. And for Gateway to review and approve a traffic study, which would be a cost that we would be paying to Gateway to be able to do that. That's the motion that right now is on the table.
And upping it to 80%.
Well,
I-
that wasn't on the motion, so
Before we
we would have.
Before we go
take-
to the next step of this, I will share my opinion that I think this is not a request that I appreciate, but there are multiple people who are potentially impacted. And if council wants to proceed with a motion of this sort, I would suggest that we place the bar a bit higher at 90%. And include the clause that it ensure that renters' voices and signatures are sought as well. That allows that the people who live in that area are most able to determine whether they think that they want this or not.
So right now, the motion is as it stands as Vince did it. Kirsten is asking to change the motion, but we have to take a vote on the current motion that Vince has on the table. It's been second.
It has, but Vince can.
You were talking, Aaron. We couldn't hear you very well. Can't hear you very well at all.
Go.
Very muffled.
I was asking Steve to turn his microphone on, please.
There we go.
Sorry.
How's that for irony?
No, I said that if we're going to, if we can amend the motion, so long as the motioner and the seconder agree to amend the motion as the amendment is being offered by Ms. Compatello.
Can I ask one thing before we go into
Sure.
changing that?
Mhm,
And I
sure.
don't want to, I agree with everything Kristen said. I'm on board with all of that. I would just like to add, if possible, clarity on what they signed, that they, again, like the solicitor said, like, it's transparent, like you are being asked to sign this because of this, whether that study is a part, but if that needs to be a part of the motion, I just want to make sure that residents, whether homeowner or renter, are aware of why they're even being asked to do this.
It goes back to you, Vince. Mhm.
Yes, I agree with all the amendments.
So the amendments being adding Morton and North Emily, which you had, Gateway to review and approve the traffic study. Changing it from property owners to residents, which includes renters, and increasing the percentage from 70 to
90%.
90. And also including a narrative on the petition that includes name, address, phone number, and email. In addition to clear language around the change that would occur. So that's all in this one motion.
And I believe she said clear language about the change and why it's occurring.
And why. Okay. Yep. And then Justin, do you second that new motion?
Sure.
So now there's discussion again. Any other discussion?
So we want to put all these stipulations around clear language and outlining why, and how are we going to determine that before they go around collecting signatures?
We will develop and provide them with a permission document.
The permission slip, right?
And
Do we need to also make as part of our motion, or just discuss in the future what length of time we would give for that? If it takes 2 to 4 weeks to do a traffic study, and we would want to give the homeowner a set number of days or weeks to seek signatures, do we need to determine that now?
Yeah, I would say, I think it's reasonable to say, traffic study by end of September and permission slips by end of October. And that it would run in the same manner. You know, that would be, you'd be in the same spot with a decision by the zoning hearing board, so.
So.
And
Go ahead.
okay, and I know we asked earlier how we would be able to know that those signatures were obtained, you know, meaningfully in good faith. How do we know that no one was missed? Will we have?
Yeah, we can lay
How will
out,
we do that?
well, we can lay out a map of all the properties that need to have signatures from. And then we could spot check them. I wouldn't anticipate going after each one, but I would spot check a dozen of them or whatnot. But we can create a Excel spreadsheet of all the houses that that they have to go to. And then they have to follow that.
Is it one per resident? So if a whole family lives there, it's one person at that house. And maybe the husband and the spouse don't agree and. Okay. All right.
Can we say it has to be an adult at least?
Hey, kitties. Kids.
So it's
Good.
household, not individual.
Okay, so right now we had Morton and North Emily, we had Gateway to review and approve the traffic study. We had 90% and we had residents, which include renters. And then the narrative, which has name, address, phone number, along with the petition, why the change is happening. We did not have a timeline on there. So the timeline would need to be changed in second. Timeline of the end of September and for the traffic study and the permission slips from the end of October.
Yes, I agree with the amendment.
Sure.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, just
Presumably by the time we get to that point, we can also make sure that we have, you know, some announcements during our council meeting so that residents are generally aware. Beyond those specific residents too, we can make ourselves a note to have this as an update on our council agenda.
So voting no to this motion basically indicates we want to stick to our code here and we don't want to change any of it, right? I just want to make sure that could be interpreted that way, right? Okay. Because that's the route I'm leaning. This all seems like a lot of theater and run around for not what I would think is something pretty simple for somebody to take care of. I had to spend 3 evenings trimming up to 15-foot clearance going down the one-way Promenade Street part, and I hated every second of it. But damn it if I didn't do it because it was required of me. So I really, as somebody who also has probably 100 or more feet of hedges on my front lawn, I love my privacy, but I would trim them if I had to. So I'll be voting no.
I mean, trust me, I agree. The easy option is to cut your hedges, but if we don't offer this, it could go to the zoning board, and that's a longer road.
My hope is that the zoning board would also do the safe and right thing for the community, but I know we have no control over that beyond being able to say that here. So
we can also recommend that they listen to this recording as part of their process. Also, there's costs. Remember that there will be, if we have Gateway review, the traffic study, there's costs.
The motion says all costs are borne to the property owner.
Unless we have Gateway
With the
review.
review of Gateway of the traffic study by then.
Any attorney's fees, any engineer fees.
Okay.
Permission, we have to put time into putting the permission. Somebody here has to put time into putting the permission slip in, and time is money. There's and then Gateway has to approve things that requires. It will not be $0 for sure. It would probably be cheaper than the borough paying for some hedge movement on their property on our dollar just to get the heck out of the way. But
Right. Okay. Any other discussion? So we have all of these things, the 90% renters, the narrative, we have the traffic study end of September, the permission slips end of October, Gateway to review and approve the traffic study, full payment by the resident, and adding Morton and North Emily streets onto the streets. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So it's 4-2. Aaron?
That's correct. I said aye for agreed.
1, 2, 3, 5-2. Oh, sorry. Okay. So motion passes.
And that's all I have.
Okay, nice. All right, sounds good. Finance and administration. So Ms. Perry is not here. We kind of, go ahead.
Yeah, I already updated a little bit. I mean, basically, what we talked about at the finance committee was the schedule for and for working through the budget this fall. So I'll just refer back to that. We are in good, we have the budget every month has been in good shape. We're still in very good shape. And you can find the budget versus actual on the website. I mean, I'm sorry, on the council drive. So we are still doing well there. And then as we go through budget season, we'll be updating you with that. Thanks.
Okay. Community services and infrastructure, Ms. Compitello.
Okay, well, there's a lot on this agenda too, but most of them are just updates. First item is that the 2023 road paving is complete. That was started earlier this summer. Hopefully everyone saw it go smoothly and without a hitch. The second item is the Broadhead project, and I'll pass it to the engineer. Gateway is going to give us an update on the final details of the Broadhead project, including some of the work planned on Perrine.
Thank you. I wanted to just remind everyone that there were several options that were proposed as it relates to the paving for each of the streets associated with Broadhead. And there was several discussions to go back and forth and number one, to cut costs, number two, to try to come to an agreement on what each of the streets would have their final pavement surface be. So there's a combination of mill and pave and also brick restoration work. So that option has been approved by council. Gateway is moving ahead with that work, but there was discussion about Perrine, and Perrine is a portion of the project that's very small. It didn't come up in the discussions for cost savings because it's simply a mill and pave. So Justin, if you can pull up that those files, I can direct you to the files that we want to open just to give a reminder. Now, we talked about this earlier this year when we talked about Broadhead. So some of the work in Perrine, hopefully this will remind you. So here's the first. This is a drawing of. You go back to the other drawing there. Yes. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that small area, and if you zoom in on it, you'll see the description. So that large area to the right is Crafton Boulevard project, and the one to the left, the smaller area, is the Perrine project area. So this was back in 2019. Perrine was listed as one of the projects that would we were proposing to separate flow at low cost. So some of you may not have even seen this. So if you go to the next one would be number 6. I think it is listed in that folder. Can you go back to the folder then? Oh, okay. It is number 4. So if you scroll, this is the scope for Perrine. So if you scroll down about 3/4 of the way, I forget what page it is. Page 6, I think. Yes. So this, if you zoom out a little bit to catch the whole project, the blue line represents the area that's draining to Perrine. So it's about 4 acres that we're capturing. If you zoom in on the green lines now, you'll see what the project is. what we're doing is picking up two inlets to the far right of the project. Do you see those two thin green lines? So those inlets will be tied to the thicker dashed green lines. And that is a large diameter. If you see, that's a large diameter. I can't remember the size of the pipe, but it's, oh, there it is, 60-inch. So it's used for retainage of the flow, storage of the flow. And then if you look to the left, there are two other inlets that will get collected. So that 4 acres of drainage is all captured by those 4 inlets. It'll go into the large pipe. It flows to the right. And then if you look there where he's pointing, that is a discharge pipe to an existing stream. So all of this flow used to go into the sanitary sewer system. It is now being removed and discharged, just like Crafton Boulevard, to the stream. This project is highly fundable. I think it was an 85% reimbursement. So this is a really good one as far as getting the most bang out of your buck. If you go to now number 11, and you go all the way to the end of the report, just want to talk about what the restoration will be, what it will look like when it's done. The last page. There you go. So you can zoom in on that dark area. So the shading to the left on clear view is brick. So that's brick restoration. So that'll be restored because that'll get disturbed as part of the inlet removal and in connection. And the light shading is all asphalt. You see how it goes into Chest Street and Bar Street. And even Chest Street, we're putting a radius on those curves, and all that will just be simply a 3-inch mill and pave. And then the hatched area just below it, that's a grassy area that if it's disturbed, it'll simply be reseeded. And then if you look at the discharge pipe, there's a energy dissipator there where the water comes out, hits the riprap, slows down, and then goes into the stream. So if I just wanted to remind everyone of that project, or maybe you hadn't seen it, but that is Perrine, and that project has been around for a long time. It never got traction by itself because it's a small dollar amount, a couple $100,000. So Elkasan recommended that we pair it with the Broadhead project and then allow that all to be one project. So that is why we paired it, and it was funded. So any questions on that?
When's that work planned again?
That will be planned along with Broadhead. So the Broadhead's just getting designed now.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not, to be clear, it's not city property. It's in the city, but it is owned by a private owner, private developer.
Yeah, so that easement will have to be acquired from that private property owner. And I don't know if there's been discussions yet or not.
No, I have not reached back out to them. It's on the list of things to do.
Yeah, I think that he knows about the project. It was maybe a year or 2 or 3 ago when we spoke to him about it, and he wasn't resistant of it.
Oh, I didn't realize anybody had spoken to him. I don't know that Alberto knew that because he said letters had been sent, but he wasn't aware that they'd actually been spoken to.
Maybe that's the level of communication. It's been a while, so maybe.
Okay.
I just know that we did reach out to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, no other questions on that. Thank you for that update. One of our next updates is about the Crafton Boulevard Streetscape Phase 2 lights. We've mentioned this a few times in the past, over the past few meetings. We'd been in talks about changing the direction of some of the lights that have been installed to test out other configurations that might cast more light on the sidewalk and less in the eyes of drivers. So 3 of those lights have been shifted to focus on the sidewalks. It's kind of a trial run. So we're asking community members, especially those who are interested in that area or who have had thoughts about those lights before our September meeting, go take a walk and visit the boulevard, especially go in the evening. The flowers are growing. It looks nice. Go smash some lantern flies on the way. Go take a walk while the weather is nice and see how the 3 shifted lights are looking. And then come to our September meeting and weigh in with your opinions, because that's when we will be deciding on the next steps, if that new configuration, if we want to move them all or if we'd like to move them back. Another update about our multi-municipal zoning project. That project is moving along. We're about a year in, so we're getting towards the final, we're in the final phase now. There is a public engagement website. It's located on our homepage at craftonborough.com. It's relatively easy to find if you know what to look for. If you scroll right down past all of the top options to community announcements, we actually have 2, the next couple items on our agenda. We have 2 links for people to go to and participate in some open processes here. So the heading says Crafton wants your input on zoning and brick streets. First item on our agenda here is to talk about the zoning. So if you look in that text, it's not one of the big buttons to push on, but it is a hyperlink within the text. Our consultants have created a website. So you can click on that website and gives information about the the proposed zoning changes, what those mean. Thank you for sharing the site. The link is somewhat buried there in that text, but it is in that text if you go right up above. Crafton wants your input on zoning and brick streets. There it is. The steering committee will be meeting on Wednesday, August 30th. That's an appointed steering committee to be discussing the updated calibration tables, the zoning changes, before they go to be shared with the public. So in the meantime, that public engagement website is live now. There's also a brick streets survey, but that's not next on our agenda. So we'll come back to the website in a moment. The next item is the pool bathhouse. We've talked about this one over the past number of months as well. We had finalized the details earlier this summer. The goal was to go to bid this fall and have all the construction done in time for the pool bathhouse to be reopened in time for pool season next year. We do have an update on this. The bids for the project came back above what we anticipated. So we are considering options to cut costs. And I'll pass it to the manager to talk through what some of those are.
Sure. Thank you, Kirsten. I gave everybody a list of the potential scope of work reductions for savings. These are the ones that I gave you are the ones that were presented by the architect, by Dave. And then I also have, there's also a reduction in outside work. There's a number of paving things that we were doing around the area, improvements, ADA improvements and whatnot. And we were able to change those slightly so that we would be doing less concrete work and we could lower that price by $66,000. So my recommendation would be to not do any of the ones that are on this scope for the work of that are inside the building, because most of the things that are pulled off here are things that will need to be replaced anyway, or already need to be replaced. So I would not recommend that, but I would recommend removing and making the change to eliminate $66,000 worth of construction work. So with that, I would like to make a motion, and I just like to clarify that this is a very time sensitive process, because the pool is closing on Labor Day. It will reopen again on Memorial Day. We don't have a very long window. We did get these bids back, so we are now waiting for that work to be done, that work to be accepted. So and you guys can have discussion after this, but my recommendation would be to make a motion to approve the low bidder of M.A. Dunn Construction Company and their subcontractors, with the addition of the change, removing some of the outside work.
So moved.
Second.
So Jim, you're saying,
Discussion.
let's approve. Let's move forward with it with the 33,000 reduction on here.
No, not, let's move forward without that reduction. Those are all the internal reductions that were recommended by the architect. And those were provided to us because we asked for reductions. The architect's here, if you'd like to have him discuss any of those reductions as well.
I thought I had heard you say with the $66,000 increase. So it went up 66 and no.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't make that very clear. The quote came back 150, I mean, the bid came back $150,000 higher than what it initially was. I'm recommending that we take $66,000 of work out of it, but continue with a bid that is $84,000 higher than what we initially expected.
And to give a little further context, I know that this is a project that had begun a couple years ago in concept, and we do have grant funding. So, unfortunately, costs have gone up since we started thinking about it, but it is partly grant funded and has been in the works for a while. So continuing to wait, the costs are probably not going to go down. But the sheet that we have that the public doesn't see, but it's in front of council, or the costs that the manager had looked at further reducing and had decided that they're not worth reducing because they're all internal to the building. And if we're doing all the work in the building, let's just do it properly. Did anyone want to hear from the architect? Do we have questions?
Yeah, sure.
I'll just say that I think the number was 60,000, so I'm not sure where the 66 came from. Not that big a deal. Also, what the work is actually is the handicap parking was going to be in the main parking lot, and there was going to be an ADA sidewalk that was installed from there all the way to the building. So the change, the value engineered portion of this is to move the parking spaces to the building, and then we can eliminate the sidewalk. So now it's an asphalt sidewalk. So but basically, we don't have exact numbers from the contract, but we're estimating it's around $60,000 in savings just to bring those parking spots to the building. So that sounds like a reasonable option, and even save some walking for ADA folks. And but it was originally considered, but it wasn't selected because it does take room up at the pool itself, right? It takes room on the sidewalk, and it provides a little bit of inconvenience for the rest of the patrons that are, sort of going around those parking spots, but nothing significant.
Presumably those would be ADA spots. They would be handicap spots, and they would be enforced. They would not be regularly used by those who don't qualify for
Right,
them.
but if all three spots were taken, what I was getting at is then you sort of have to walk around them to, so it's just a slight inconvenience, but it
Seems like
saves money.
less of a convenience for everyone walking around than the people who might otherwise have to
Yes,
travel further without the mobility to do so.
right.
So from the cost perspective, to understand, our grant was for 250,000 was the grant. We were matching 250,000
Correct.
as the borough. The cost came in on top of that, 133 or 100 is 100.
It's around.
130,000 additional. So we would be adding onto our cost, obviously, 133,000 onto that.
Is that minus the 60?
Not minus the 60.
Okay.
It would be adding about 80,000.
80,000, right, the 84,000 onto that. So that's an additional cost the borough would be responsible for. And that would, I'm assuming, come from our bond money then.
Right.
So that would come out of our bond.
So we wrote our plan. We had the plan. I remember we pulled it up and we looked through, we talked about the flow of foot traffic out of the medic area and whatever. So we took that, we bid it out, we got a bid back. Following that plan, 130K higher. And now we're taking we're taking $50,000 or $60,000 of it. What 50 or 60 is coming out? Like, how much different is this going to look than what we looked at over and approved in here? Is what my question is, because I know, I mean, I get it. We have, it needs to be timely here, but I don't know what I'm approving.
The only change is you want to be more specific, the only change is in the parking lot, and it's related to where the handicap spots will be located. They were planned to be right up next to the building. Now they're just going to continue to be in the parking lot where they were previously.
No, it's the other way. They were originally in the parking lot and then a long sidewalk to get to the building. So we can eliminate the sidewalk, save the money, bring the 3 spots up to the building, park them right against the building, and then we don't have to pay for that sidewalk to come up.
We're gonna park them like right in front of that external concession stand window or whatever it is.
That is never used.
That's never, right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically that space isn't used at all now, except for when people like myself or Public Works will drive up there and park when they run in for something and come back out, but otherwise it's not used right now.
Okay, and that change will save us like 50 grand, so it'll come out to like
Probably around 60. So that means you'll be paying an additional 84,000 over and above your 500 that was already expected to be paid. So yes, that's, as Kirsten had mentioned, the cost of construction is increasingly rising. It's not going to get cheaper if you try to rebid. And Justin, so you know, we have bids those are the numbers, they're committed.
So the grant was 250 and the borough would now be paying 334 versus the 250 that was approved prior.
Yes.
Realizing that the pool continues to be a big expense for the borough. So it's from a residential standpoint. There are costs, whether it's maintenance, staff. There's a lot of staff time, not only the paid staff that work the pool, but also the people that are on the administrative side, plus the cost to maintain the building, the pool, the water, all of those things are significant borough costs. And making these changes, we talked about the roof. This does not include any of the roof.
Right.
So
that's a future expense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about the changes. That's fine. I know this is probably getting ahead of things, but I'm just trying to think like the taxpayer who's probably going to ask questions about the pool. Do we think we're going to have to raise pool rates because of this change?
I don't anticipate that. Yeah, we had a slightly lower pool rate pool membership this year, but that was only because of some odd weather. I think we'll go back up next year. I don't anticipate having to change any rates over this.
Cool.
I just want to emphasize, the pool is an expense. There are a lot of expenses, but it's also a huge community asset. And I want to recognize how much people appreciate and love that and what an asset it is, even for those who don't use it, which includes me because I don't use it.
So just to be clear, this is that we're voting on going through with the $60,000 reduction and making the parking lot changes and not this.
Correct.
That's correct. That's in front of us.
That is correct.
Motion that's currently on the table.
Is for the
When we finish
66,
discussion and go to
60,000.
vote, the motion is for the changes with the parking changed and the expense rises by roughly 80,000.
80,000.
What's it to accept the low bid is what it is, minus the 60. So the motion would be that we accept the low bid from M.A. Dunn minus the parking lot change.
If I could, I have one.
Yeah, it just comes to the mic.
It's a small, I think, adjustment, but what we actually have is, it's the award of 3 contracts because M.A. Dunn is the general contractor. Then we have the plumbing contractor and we have the electrical. So those are not subs to Dunn. You'll have the award to M.A. Dunn at his low bid number, and then the award to each of the other 2. So there'll be 3, technically, I think 3 motions to award the whole project. Because Dunn is a separate prime, just like the others. Yeah.
And a note on why that's happening in building construction, the trades have made it so that those contracts are bid individually so that they don't just fall into a general contractor who might go get a sub that may or may not be prevailing wage or may not be. So it's a requirement that those contracts are let separately. But for the work that you normally do, the sewer work and things like that, that's not done. But in the building case, plumbing, electrical, those are bid out separately.
So this isn't a change to the plumbing or the electrical work, just the work that MA Dunn would be doing in the parking lot.
Yes, that's the only reduction to the contract.
So we
Will be
would,
that.
so we would have a motion to approve the lowest electrical bidder, a motion to approve the lowest plumber bidder, and then a motion to approve MA Dunn with proposed changes to the parking. Do we need to cap the amount to lock it in, or like, and we've already confirmed that we can get the, yeah, whatever the total amount is, it'd be the 80K or whatever change, right? That's all. Like we've already run the whole parking change past the folks that we would, like, if we're going to approve it tonight, this is already like, we're good to go, right? We approve it and there's not going to be any more back and forth, right?
No.
There will be no more price changes. Do,
Unless, right, there's always, especially when you're dealing with a building that is old and you're redoing parts of it, there's always possibilities that you have change orders down the road, but yeah. Not at this point.
And yeah, and in that regard, you normally want to have a contingency available. I think if we're in the neighborhood of 600,000, but you should be thinking about a 5% or so contingency for construction for any unknowns. And as I understand it, you have the low bids in front of you. You're actually awarding them at their bid value, but you are noting that there's an intention to affect the scope of work in the parking to reduce that. Right, so you're still making the MA Dunn award at the 422 because that's as I understand it, by the structure of public bidding, that's what you are doing, is awarding that as a low bid contract. You would then have a credit that would be given back off of the value of that based on any savings that you can find in the parking, or from our end, if we can find places where we can find a savings, we would do that. And at that time, there'd be a credit change order to bring that down too.
That's a good point, David. And what, just in other words, we're gonna award the contract for its current amount, the high amount, but we just won't do all the work. And in this case, we won't do the sidewalk. You know, we'll go to the contractor and say, here, we're putting the parking spaces up at the building, we're eliminating that work. So you won't get billed for the work because you're not doing it. So that's how it's getting reduced.
so
We
we
can't
have,
change his bid, I guess is the point.
we have a motion that's on the table. Does that have to be withdrawn and reworded to reflect that we are only awarding to the one company and then do the other two separately? Or can we just move forward with can we just clarify the motion that's already on the table and move forward?
Yeah, I think we should be able to especially because my first motion was actually just to MA Dunn anyway with the subtraction. So I basically made the right motion, not knowing that I had to make two other motions.
Let's hope the other two don't take all this time.
So right now, we just had the MA Dunn bid. Do we want, and I don't even know if anybody first and second, I can't even remember now, if anybody first and second that, or
Yeah, we have Capitello first and Rodilla seconded.
So for you, would you like to make any changes to your motion? No, so you're saying to accept the MA Dunn bid as presented for the pool.
Well, with the subtraction of
With the subtraction of the.
With,
parking
yeah,
lot.
with the wording that the manager originally made it with.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. And you're good, Vince? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Do you know the names of the plumbing and electrical?
Yes, hold on one second. I'll bring it up. I make a motion to approve independent mechanical for the electrical and building work.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Comptello, Mr. Chandler seconds. Any discussion?
There were no changes in price or scope to note on that?
No,
How much was that for the break? If we're breaking them down now, we have 422K for MA done.
this one came in at $94,945.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then the plumbing?
And then the final motion I'm asking for is to approve the plumbing contract to East End Plumbing Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $135,000.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Rodillo? Second, oh, Mr. Chandler? All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, we get to go back to the website.
Mhm.
There was a long pause between the zoning project link on our website to see the community engagement page. There's also a Brick Street survey link on our website.
Thank you. Mhm.
There you go. Pretty easy to find. It's also, the link is also in that text. The Crafton Planning Commission has asked council to have the administration put out a survey asking residents how they feel about brick streets. That survey will remain open until October 1st. You can find a link to the survey on the Crafton Borough homepage. This has been an item of discussion a lot in council and in the planning commission for some time. There are a lot of people who have expressed opinions about brick streets. And with some of the streets that have been repaved, we wanted to have a survey out to all residents to make sure that everyone has a chance to share their thoughts and opinions on this. So please visit that survey. It'll be open until October 1st.
One question on the survey, how can we make sure that people just can vote once? Because you can vote as many times as you want.
Yeah, we initially had it limited, to one IP address. The problem with that was if there were two people in a house using the same computer, it limited them. So we didn't do that. The way we're watching it now is by the email addresses they give us at the end, which pretty much everybody has been giving us. So we haven't received too many duplicates, at least not as far as we can tell.
But you're not required to put your email.
You're not required, no.
Right.
So, but I can tell you out of the 35 or so that we've already received, basically every one of them has an email address.
Is there a way to take that survey if you don't use the internet? Is there a paper version that can be available at the Borough building?
That's a great question. And no, I do not have one yet, but we could easily create one.
So if anyone is interested in this topic and does not, is not able to or is not comfortable taking it online, go into the Borough building. We'll make sure that there are some printed copies. Little harder to do with the zoning project update, but if you have questions about that and can't access it online, please share that with the Borough as well, and we'll see what we can do to make information available. Final item for my committee is the stairs project. We've received notice, here again, prices are going up. We've received notice that there were several adjustments made to the cost estimates for this project. The engineers had added some cheek walls and additional railings to the project. That, as well as inflation, some of the design changes in inflation has led to an estimate of 1.1 million, which is $550,000 higher than the initial estimate of $565,000. So the price almost doubled. We are going to be looking into options that will bring that estimate closer to the original. We've got several grant sources that we're going to help pay for that project, but we are not as time bound as we are with the pool bathhouse. So we're going to keep looking into options to reduce that cost. And we're not taking any action tonight. That's all for my committee.
Just make them into hiking trails, right?
Okay, CRCE, Ms. Vollenbacher or Ms. Polkownik?
I'll make this quick. I'll do my best. So we have lots and lots of great events that are coming up that are being hosted between the Recreation Board and all those good things. But recently we held a senior dinner on August 12th. 33 people in attendance, lots of good feedback. So that will be the last senior dinner for this year, but we're already in the works of planning out a few more for 2024. Lots of good feedback on the two that we did have this year. We're really excited. Fall Fest, we've been advertising that. You should be seeing it between Savvy Citizen, lots of social media feeds, but we're having a Fall Fest. The Recreation Board is sponsoring a Fall Fest on September 30th, 12 to 6. Lots of free family events. We're also having axe throwing, face painting, a polka band, or a cornhole tournament, which you can register through, again, various ways. And this is the first time we are doing a beer garden. So we already have plans for how that will work. But again, very excited to have that on September 30th. I encourage, if anyone knows food trucks or any type of vendor that has, I'd like to say, I preferred more Fall Fest kind of crafty sort of situation. We're still looking for vendors. They can apply through the borough's website. Staying in the space of what is up and coming, we are having the 3rd annual Haunted Crafton is also coming up. Still looking for participants as well. Again, please just go to the borough website and sign up if you're interested in having your house be a part of that. Newsletters. Everyone should have received. If not, it should be hitting your mailbox soon. Lots of great content in this issue. All of the events that we've talked about, and a lot of the stuff actually, as Kirsten was talking, the surveys are in Jim's managed. So there's a lot of good content in this newsletter. So please check it out. The next newsletter will be coming out. We're shooting for early December. The digital sign, we have a date or a range. We're starting that project of starting the installation after Labor Day. So making some moves on that, which is good news. And then just an update, we're going to start the process of updating the Crafton Borough logo. I don't know if everyone knows that we have one, but we do. We're going to update that. So that is just now getting started, but excited to have, a consistent, and I don't even know if it's on the website.
It's not on the website.
It's not on the website.
We have,
so there you
we
go.
have a mirror. Yeah, we have a few different. Oh yeah, it is.
Just keep scrolling, you'll find it.
If
Yes.
anybody can draw it.
And
or-
even the recreation board, that is slightly different on some other things. So just having a logo that is concise and the same across all forms of communication and people's faces. That was fast. I just am being aware of everyone's time, but please, please, please go to the website, read your newsletter. There are so many fun things happening and we need people to sign up. So spread the word and come to the Fall Fest.
And clarity on the haunted tour, that nobody has to come into your house.
Correct. Yes. For
Okay.
the haunted tour, that is an audio recording. People would just drive through the neighborhood and listen to a spooky, scary story. If you prefer a spooky, scary story in front of your house, that's hopefully decorated over the top for Halloween. And I didn't even mention the Christmas house tour. Again, just being aware of time. We're also doing the Christmas house tour as well, and they need houses. So if you want people in your home during the holiday season, please go to the website.
And the first night or kickoff celebration of lights too.
December 2nd will be
Yeah.
our light up night. I call it light up night. That's probably not the appropriate term. It is called, Celebration of Lights, right there in the newsletter. It will be down at the park, begins at dark. Again, lots of fun, festive, family fun. But yes, flipping the switch and getting Crafton festive for the holidays, December 2nd. And I could keep going. There's so much more. Please just read your newsletter and go to Savvy Citizen.
Thank you. All right, commission vacancy, Mr. Chandler.
Yes, I will make this quick as I don't have any updates. We have a few current open positions. If you're interested, please do go to our website and look to see what's available. But I will run through them right now. We have one alternate civil service commission, one recreation board, and one alternate zoning hearing board as well, currently available. And upcoming at the end of the year, we will have 3 additional recreation board spots available as well. And that's all.
Great. Council of Governments. So this is not Ms. Polkownik. This would be, I don't know if Ms. Bolenbacher can talk or if Mr. Price, if you had any information. Are they on summer
We're still on
hiatus?
summer hiatus until September.
Do you know when the next meeting is?
It's the 3rd Thursday, but at Neville, but my apologies, I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I don't know the exact date.
Very good. Okay. Next council meeting is September 14th. So mid-September already at 7:15. I believe that's 3 weeks away. Yes. So it is a 3-week time lapse where we have certain times where it's 3 weeks. Typically it's every other week. The pool. So information on the pool is on the website. It will be open 2 additional weekday evenings, 2 additional weeks of weekday evenings, 4 to 7. This is when we have the staff that is able to do that. And also evenings and weekends for the next 2 weeks through Labor Day, Monday, September 2nd. The fall, so me's coughing now. The Crafton Fall Festival, which Mr. County talked about, September 30th, 1 to 6 in the park, and lots of things going on, and the Haunted Crafton Driving Tour, October 21st through the 31st. So kudos to the rec board for putting together lots of fun events so far this year, and many more to come.
Yeah, not to interrupt, John, I'm
No.
sorry. Thank you for saying that. I did want to make a note to acknowledge all of the recreation board. It is a group of people who are just really giving up their time, and they're doing some really great events. So a big shout out to all of the members of the recreation board.
Great. So, anything else for the council? No? Okay. Public comment at this time. Citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. So folks here, you would just raise your hand. Anybody? Okay. And on Zoom, you would raise your hand. Okay. With that, there's nothing else. Meeting is adjourned. I do want to say, I want to really thank this group for the really thoughtful discussions on some big topics today that we talked about. And you guys really thought about the questions and about resident views and issues before making lots of these really important decisions. So I'm just really proud to be a part of this good council that we have here. So with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.